Welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and my guest today is someone who has spent over 30 years helping people tap into something most of us don't fully understand, but many of us feel. She's a psychic counselor and Reiki master teacher who has worked with over 15,000 clients and trained thousands of people in energy healing and psychic development. She's the author of several best-selling books, including The Art of Physic Reiki and Energy Healing for Empaths. And she's also the host of the podcast, The Miracle of Healing. Her mission is simple: help people step into their intuitive and healing gifts because the world needs more healers. Please welcome to the show, Lisa Campion.
I'm so glad to be with you today.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. Thank you for being a guest. I appreciate you spending this time with me. So let's just jump right into it. Well, you started working as a psychic at 19. What led you down that path?
It was a pretty weird thing to do, especially because back then it was it was in the 80s, you know? So I grew up in the 60s, born in the 60s, and I grew up just outside Boston. And I was one of those, like, I see dead people kids, you know? So I was seeing things, I was seeing colors around people, I was seeing angels and shadow spirits. And it was it's still a pretty weird thing to do, but back then it was really weird, super duper weird. So I don't know. I was like trying to figure out. Of course, I grew up in a really haunted house. Like, of course, that's going to happen. And I just was spending a lot of time trying to figure out, like, what was this? What was happening to me? My parents were like, "It's your imagination," and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure it's not my imagination, but I don't know. I'm just a kid, you know." And it just sent me on this lifelong journey of trying to figure out what was happening. There were no books. I was in the library looking for books. There was no psychics on TV, no internet back then, you know? And it's just what I always knew I was going to do. So I started I started working when I was 19. It was in the 80s. And in the 80s, I was at university, and it was the dawn of the new age. You know, all of a sudden there were psychics, there were books and things that I could really study with. And that's about the time that I started working. I don't know why I thought, when you're 19, you just think you can do things. So you do them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So growing up, did you always feel like you were different?
Yeah. I always did. I always felt like I was different. And I felt like I was having a whole experience of life that other people weren't having. And trying to make sense of that and also really pretend to be normal in public, which, you know, like my mom had this best friend who had a little girl my age. We go over there to play, and her house was even more haunted than my house. And it was so scared the whole time I was there. And I had to like pretend that I wasn't, because people didn't want to talk about it. People didn't want to deal with it. They just told you were crazy, or it was your imagination. And that happens a lot. I think there's so many more people who really have psychic experiences but we don't talk about it, you know? I think it's very, very, very common, but just most people don't talk about it because they don't want to be shamed or ostracized, or, you know. I was lucky my parents were hippies, so they didn't like drag me to the church and throw holy water on me like happens to some people, or send me to the mental hospital like happens to some people. But it is, I think, way more common than we think it is.
So when was that moment you realized that this ability was real? It wasn't like your parents saying, "Oh, it's just your imagination." Like, when did you realize this is something that?
You know, I had a twin brother that died in utero, and I think that's why I'm psychic. So, he died about 14 weeks. My mom had a miscarriage, and they thought, well, that was it. You know, she's done. But being pregnant, but she was still pregnant because there were twins. You know, and when I was little, maybe 4 or 5 years old, I had an imaginary friend, and my imaginary friend was my dead brother. My dead brother William. He was my imaginary friend, and I could see him clear as day. He's as clear as I'm seeing you. And I was talking to him, you know, like kids do with their imaginary friends. And my mom walked in the room and she said, "Lisa, who are you talking to?" And I said, billions, like it was no big deal. And he ran out of the room screaming, crying, freaking out, and then later on, I heard the story about that. And that's when I realized, and I think the people in my family realized it wasn't my imagination, because how would I know that? How would I make that up? That wasn't something that, you know,
You was around for, yeah, like you didn't know.
yeah, that was it.
So, what was some of the biggest challenges stepping into this work?
I think, there was a couple of things. One of them was, when I was 19, I still didn't really know anything, because, you don't when you're that when you're that young. So when I really started seeing clients, I quickly realized I didn't have enough skills. So when I finished university, I went back to school and studied therapy, became a therapist, and really added that into my mix, so I could help people in a deeper way. Because it's I think for my responsibility is to my client, the person that I'm dealing with. And so I had to learn a lot more skills. I think that was probably the hardest part. It's not a game, it's like we're really dealing with some serious stuff. And I needed to get better training so I could help people at a deeper level. I don't really mind people that are skeptical. I haven't had too many problems with that. I just think everybody's entitled to their opinion. Skeptics are, I don't know if I would believe in this stuff if I wasn't experiencing it every single day of my life, right? So I don't have too much problems with haters or trolls or skeptics. If somebody tells me they're skeptical, I'm like, good. It just means you're smart and you're thinking for yourself. And, if you had the experiences I had, you might believe, and you haven't. So it's okay. We all have to, find our way through what we believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Um, so, what exactly is Reiki, and how does it work?
Reiki is a gentle, hands-on energy healing technique from Japan. We can think about it as acupuncture without needles. And the Reiki practitioner just learns to connect with this universal life force energy. That's what Reiki means, and transfer that to the person that they're working on. And when I learned Reiki in 1999, it was still very fringe. It was still I've always been on the fringe doing the weird things. And nowadays, all these many years later, Reiki's much more mainstream. It's in 800 hospitals all over the United States. And where I live in New England, all the big hospitals in New England have like full-time Reiki staff. So you go in there, you can get some, doctors recognize that it helps. It helps. It's used pre and post surgery. It's used in pain clinics to treat pain in a non-narcotic way. It's used for depression and anxiety, to treat mental health issues, and just to help people who feel energy depleted. So yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful healing modality.
What? Because you also because you what you it's amazing because you're mixing in what you experienced in life and then what you're learning with Reiki. How how is that working? Like how you do that? How do you infuse all that? Like how is that mix for you?
It's a great mix, and because I was teaching Reiki classes and psychic development classes at the same time, and what I noticed that a lot of my Reiki students were going on to take my psychic development classes, and that when you practice Reiki, a lot of times it pops open your psychic ability, your intuitive ability. I always say yoga, meditation, and Reiki are the three things you can do that will accelerate your psychic ability, really pop it open for you. So, so it's just natural to me that I would teach them together. And I did for a really long time. And then I wrote a book in 2018 called The Art of Psychic Reiki, which is a combination of Reiki training and psychic development. It was kind of radical at the time. It was kind of rad and controversial, actually, because people were like, that's not that's not canon. That's not like what we do in Reiki. It's not like you're not supposed to put those two together. So it caused a bit of a stir. But actually, to me, it just made total sense. Like, if you were going to study Reiki and be a Reiki healer, isn't it great to add intuition, to add psychic ability into your healing sessions? It just gives you more information, makes you a better, more effective healer. So to me, it was really a no brainer.
It would make sense for you to infuse something that you're aware of and you know of. So yeah, like, and of course people are gonna be like, oh, that's not how you do it, because they feel like, oh, it's just it has to be this way.
That's right.
But people are different, right? Like, people teach differently. Yeah, they might have the same philosophy or whatever, but you as a teacher, you teach differently. Like, you find your style, the way you do things. So it's you're always going to infuse you your you're always going to infuse a part of you in what you teach and what you show people.
100%. Yeah, I think that's right. And that, I mean, for the most part, people in the Reiki community are open to that. There's some, of course, like sticklers for tradition, that don't want anything to change and you have to do it exactly traditional way, and sort of like yoga, martial arts, any of those things. But to me, it's Reiki is really like alive, and it's meant to evolve, as we change. It's meant to serve us, and as our needs change and evolve, Reiki can as well, to sort of meet and match that.
So you talk a lot about empaths. What is the empath really?
Yeah, that was my second book. I wrote a book called Energy Healing for Empaths. And empaths are like highly sensitive people who really absorb the energy of the people around them. So it's really different from being like sympathetic. You might be like let's say you go to a party and someone's really having a bad day and they're crying into their drink and you're like, "Oh, look at that person's having it. Oh, I feel sorry for them." That's different. Being an empath is like you sit next to that person and you literally absorb their feelings, their energy, their thoughts. You absorb it like you're a big psychic sponge, and then you experience it as if it's yours. So all of a sudden you're sad, you're depressed, you're crying into your drink, because you picked up and absorbed that energy from another person. It's quite challenging. It's, I think, a beautiful gift. It's people who are empaths are meant to help other people. We know what you're feeling. It's like that massage therapist who always knows where to put their hands, right on you. And you don't even have to say it. They're just like, "Ooh, that's the spot." Or, empaths are really good with kids, with animals, with, feeling what somebody else needs and then being able to give that to them. And it's a really horrible burden until we learn how to manage our energy, because, being in public sucks. And if you're just picking up everybody else's vibes and having to deal with it.
Sometimes maybe that's what causes people anxiety, right? Because they don't realize
100%. Yeah.
that they're empath, and they're just having all this energy just come to you. So
Yeah. Depression and anxiety are really common for empaths until they learn how to manage their energy, until they understand their nature, until they learn how to manage their energy so they're not so spongy. And then that's good. It's a good thing.
awesome. So I guess we answered that question. So how can someone protect their energy daily?
Yeah, it's really good to have like an energy hygiene practice, an energy management practice. You brush your teeth, you take a shower, you manage your energy. It's like that. I think if you're a sensitive person, it's something that should become part of your daily, self-care routine. And there are a couple of steps to it that I use. One of them is grounding ourselves, which means really getting in our back in our bodies. So I use like a breathing sort of visualization practice. You take a deep breath, you breathe into your heart, and you imagine that energy going down down your legs into the earth, kind of like even getting rooted into the earth, you know? So we need to ground. We need to clear the energy that we pick up from other people. And again, we can use our breath. You can imagine you're standing under a waterfall of light that's like washing away all the energy that doesn't belong to you. And you can use your breath really to sort of exhale again down those roots and out into the earth. And then we need to protect ourselves. So we need kind of like an energy shield, an energy bubble around us so that when we go out into the world, we're not so spongy. And it's a really simple thing you can do. I sit in the car before I go into Walmart or Costco or any of those big box stores, which are super tough on sensitive people. I sit in my car, I do my ground clear, protect, put on my shields. I do it halfway through Costco. I do it when I get out of Costco. Otherwise, halfway through, I'm like crying and I can't remember my name or where I parked my car, you know?
Oh,
So, so,
for me, or for me, I go to Walmart at 6 in the morning
all
when
right.
there's no one there. Like that's when I go because when I go when there's a lot of people, I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah,
Go and I just make sure I go in and there's no one in there, so I just grab what I got to get and I'm
that's
out.
smart. Yep. 9 o'clock at night on Friday is good too. Do you think you're sensitive? Do you think you have some of that sensitivity?
I just yeah, I prefer. There's certain times I know. Okay, prime example. I'm watching some videos and the just the nature of the video, the positive energy, the love. Like if it's I'll just start I start welling up and emotional and this just happens just from just watching a video. Just so I have my moments.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what are some signs someone is awakening their psychic abilities?
I think maybe we start dreaming, remembering your dreams. Sometimes it's like having an active dream life. I think it's, just that sense of knowing things like, I don't know why I know, I just know, or feeling, I have a good, bad feeling about that. I think we start noticing the signs and omens in the world. Maybe you just notice every time you look at the clock, it says 11:11, or you get in the car, you're like, I'm thinking about my grandpa, and then grandpa's favorite song plays on the radio, like it's the world sort of becomes alive with signs, omens, and synchronicities. And when we start paying attention to that, they're sort of like little signposts that are there to kind of guide us through our life. And intuition, there's a little difference between intuition and psychic. So intuition's like our inner knowing, our inner wisdom comes from our higher self, from our soul self, and it's really meant to like guide you on your path, to help you figure out. And I think in this day and age, the world is so crazy right now that we really need our intuition to kind of direct us through the choppy waters we're moving through right now, you know? And psychic's a little different. Psychic is when we get information from outside of ourselves. That's angels, dead Uncle Fred, your beloved granny who comes by and gives you a message. The ascended masters, all the other spiritual beings that exist that are here to help us because, it's hard being a human on the planet and we don't come down here by ourselves. We come down here with a bunch of helpers who are meant to assist us if we listen. And that's what being psychic is.
Um, one of the um, one of the coolest moments. My sister was working at my wife and brother in law's mechanic shop, and customer was there. This older Spanish lady, white silver hair, long, and I walk into the office and I say hi to my sister and I say hi to the lady and I leave and she tells my sister and she goes, he's protected. Um, and she describes my aunt to the T. Like, yeah, there's this lady. He has this lady next to him watching over him, and she described my aunt to the T. And my sister pulled out the picture, showed. She's like, yeah, that's her. And my sister like right after that, she calls me and she tells me this,
Mhm.
and she's like, she's like, you know, that lady that was in the, he said, I was next to you and all this, and I was like, but we come from a family that we believe in that, like
Mhm.
we believe in spirits and we believe in energy and all, so it wasn't a surprise to me because I know how my aunt was, so I could see her protecting over me.
Well, it's so cool. That's a great story. I love that story.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about Reiki and everything?
Um, about about psychic is really interesting. People have misconceptions about all this whole,
Of course,
conversation,
of course,
but
when people say psychic, oh, Miss Cleo and all this other,
yeah,
you get,
exactly.
you get the bad rap for people who did take advantage of it. Of
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Or they think it's like it is in the horror movies, like it doesn't end well for the psychic in the poor psychic in the horror movies. Like it's all an evil demon who's trying to get you, and all you're going to see is a shadow in the darkness. It's not scary. I've never actually been scared of spirits. People, on the other hand, scare the crap out of me on a regular basis, but you know, spirits have never to me been scary. So I don't think it's not, it can be startling or it can be scary to think it's real. Oh my gosh, this is real. That can scare people. That's a moment for sure of like changing your perspective on reality, That's unsettling for sure. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is it's really hard or only special people do it. And the fact is really everybody has psychic experiences all the time, intuitive experiences all the time. Most of us just dismiss them, We're like, well, that feeling you get or that inner knowing that you get or that little voice in your head that you get, we're like, meh. And we think only special people have it, but really everybody does.
It's deja vu. Um,
Mhm.
that's what it is for me because this it's just even recently. We went to Chicago and we was driving through somewhere and I'm like just thinking, looking back, and I'm like, man, this is it feels like I've been here, and that was like my first time in Chicago. But then I go back and I think, and it was a dream, and it wasn't the exact same thing, same area, but it was the same situation. It was just something that when it happened in Chicago, I was like, why does this feel like I've been here before, or I know this, or something. It was just cool, and for me to realize it at that moment, it was.
Huh, that deja vu. I wonder if that's a past life. A lot of times when we have deja vu and we think we've met somebody before, or we think we've been somewhere before, we actually have. Just it was just in a different lifetime. So I wonder if you were experiencing a past life. What do you think? Could that be true?
It could be. It definitely could be.
Yeah.
But it's not like that's not like the only time it's happened. Like there's been other times where I've dreamt of a situation or seen the dream, and then eventually it could be months, it could be a year, it could be 2 3 years, but it's just crazy that it's happened more than once.
Mm, yeah.
So
Yep.
can anyone can like you mentioned, so can someone develop their abilities? Like if like you mentioned that we're born with it, can someone start training to start developing it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that psychic abilities like musical ability or athletic ability, everybody's got some, but you have to work it. If you look at a professional athlete or professional musician, we know they practice, they work at it. We don't just think they were born that way and they didn't have to do anything about it. We get this idea about that psychics are like born and they never had to work it, but that's not true. Everybody has their potential, right? And if you're willing to put the time in to practice, to learn, read a book, take a class, you can absolutely develop it, just like you could if you wanted to increase your athletic or musical ability.
So for someone curious but skeptical, where should they start?
I think like go down a YouTube rabbit hole and look up some stuff. Look up some near-death experiences. Those are really fun to watch and can really open your mind to a whole different reality. It really good to get Reiki training. Learn, do some yoga, get some Reiki, learn to meditate. That's really good. Read a book about it. I wrote a book called Awakening Your Psychic Abilities. If you feel like you want to, and I also have like a little workbook that goes with that called the Psychic Awakening Journal. And those kind, you put your attention on it and you work with it a little bit. Get a divination cards, get some angel cards or some tarot cards and start playing with them because they'll really actually quickly increase your psychic ability, kind of open yourself to the idea of it. And I love the practice of starting a psychic journal. So just get a journal, write psychic journal on the top of it, and then write down all the dreams you remember. Write down all those events that you talked about, like the fact that you remembered being somewhere or the signs and omens that we get. If you pull cards, write them down there too, because the psychic hits and impressions we get are so powerful in the moment, but they can be a little ephemeral, like dreamlike, like if we don't write it down quickly, we kind of forget about it. And if you start a psychic journal, I'm going to guarantee you're going to be surprised by how psychic you already are, even before you start training. And then if you train and practice, it's going to increase a lot.
Okay. How do you balance spiritual awareness with real world responsibilities?
Such a great question. I love that question. And when I was younger, it was easy. I was a single mom with 3 kids, right? So I would like come home from doing sessions and pick my kids up at school and then like go make dinner and drive the kids to sports and clean the house. Like I just had to live like, do the mom thing. And it was really actually grounding after a day of psychic work to just go home and wash the kitchen floor. Really puts everything into perspective. So I just find that, attending to my life, making sure that I'm getting plenty of, I walk my dog 2 miles every day and I'm out and about, gardening and exercising, and you got to have a life, that I just think finding joy and pleasure in everyday life is super important. And I love that.
So it's just part of you, right? It's not who you are. It's just part of you. You just like I'm a regular person. Yes,
Yeah.
I have some psychic abilities, but I'm a regular person. I go in my
Yep.
garden and I walk my dog. So so that's that's awesome. Like, and I love how you just like yeah. I just it's it's like yeah. I just do regular things like everybody else.
Yep.
When I
I
then
do.
yeah.
There's nothing really special about it. Just like, I mean, it's cool, it's interesting, and it's certainly helpful, but it's just a normal human ability. Like if I played in a band or I was an athlete, it would be the same thing. I'm just still living my life day by day and doing the best I can to be happy and productive in the world and just go through moment by moment.
All right, what role does healing play in personal growth?
Wow, I think so much. So much. So I feel like everything is an opportunity for personal growth. Whether it's our relationships, our family, our kids, like anything that triggers you is an opportunity for growth. So I kind of like look forward to the triggers in my life. I'm like, oh, there's some work I need to do, and I've been working on myself for 40 years now. And I find it endlessly interesting and humbling, right? To keep doing the healing. So I think every time we get reactive, every time we get triggered, it's just every time we get upset about something, there's an opportunity for healing. And we don't have to be judgmental about it. We don't have to freak out about it. We just have to get curious, like look inside of yourself. Well, why did I get triggered? What's going on in there? And, it comes back to whatever. It always comes back to the same 3 things that happened in your life over and over again, right? That caused some pain or some trauma for you that you got to work through. And it's so liberating to do that. So I've never really been able to separate personal growth and psychic development from spiritual growth. When we set on a spiritual journey, we are going to be required to do it personal healing. And I think that's a very good thing.
Oh no, it's so last year, January of last year, um, my goal I set out was um I was gonna improve my personal relationship with God, spirit. It just it was just gonna be something that I would work on, and that's something that I did work on, and so many things, like so many positive impacts. Like there's so many things that have happened that I don't think had I started that, like things that would be happening. Like recently I took a job offer. I start the 13th of this month, and it's life altering for me, because it's as far as benefits, it helps me and my wife. And then the money I'm going to be making, it's more than what I make now, so it's going to help alleviate. Now my wife can come switch jobs and be home more frequent. It's just by me. I felt like by me doing that and deciding that that was something that I wanted to work on personally throughout the year, and that's something I really take pride in, and just the way things has just been falling into place.
That's great.
It's
Good
been,
for you. Congratulations.
thank you.
And yeah, I totally get it. I mean, there's a huge correlation when we do that inner work, we do that spiritual growth work and go on that spiritual journey. It just opens up so many beautiful things in our life and sort of gets us in the flow, puts us more on the path of what we're really meant to do. So that's such good news. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So, what impact do you want your work to have long term?
You know, I really feel like so many people are going through psychic openings. So many people are understanding they're sensitive. And I really struggled with that when I was going through it because I was a kid and, you know, it was a long time ago. And I feel like it was hard, you know, my childhood in so many ways. And I feel like if I can help somebody else go through that in an easier way with more ease and grace than I could do, than I did, it is a really good day for me. So I really love working with psychics, empaths, healers who are, you know, emerging, who are undergoing their growth, who are on their journey to help them do it in an easier way than I could. And I think it's important because the world needs all the healers it can get. So many people are feeling called to that now. They're wanting to participate, they're wanting to contribute in like I did. And I really like to pass on the knowledge that I got, sort of hard won knowledge, and make it easier for everybody else who's coming up behind me.
No, it was for me. That's why I do the podcast, right? Is to be able to give someone like yourself a platform to share your story and share your knowledge, because it's
Mm.
important to have this message out there, because who knows who might see this episode and they can relate
Mm.
to it, and they can be like, oh man, is that what I'm going? Maybe that's what I'm going. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
So to me, it's important that I continue to do my podcast. Like it's opened up so many like so many opportunities. Like this wasn't like I wasn't in media or broadcast, but I was like, I want to start a podcast. But of course, I was making up excuses and doubting myself. And then finally, when I did, it was just like, okay, this big weight was lifted off, and now I'm like, okay, I can do this. And
Hmm.
it went from a 7 minute podcast to now doing 30, 35 minutes, 45 minutes.
So good. I
And so,
love that.
yeah, so it's grown. I've grown with the podcast. You can go back to past episodes and see the evolution of the show and my growth, and it's just been amazing, like an amazing 6 years now. This
That's so
yeah,
cool. Yeah, it's about the same for me doing podcasting. I started podcasting in 2017, and I love it. I've been doing it for a while, and I just feel like I meet and get to talk to people that I never would, and have incredible conversations with people that I would never have an opportunity to meet, and share everybody's message. So I love my hosting my own podcast, and I love being on other people's podcasts because I think we build our community. We share our knowledge, and it just makes the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we're coming to the show where you get the spotlight and you get to plug away and let everybody find it. But if someone listening feels overwhelmed, drained, or like they're carrying energy that isn't theirs, but what's the first they should what's the first step they should take today?
And you should take a deep breath, breathe, you know, take some deep, go outside, put your bare feet on the ground if you can, go outside in nature and breathe and let your feelings come out, let your emotions come out. Cry if you need to cry, scream if you need to scream, just get it all out. Grounding, being close to nature, breathing is the best immediate, like SOS kind of 911 that we have to do when we're feeling overwhelmed.
Awesome, awesome. Well, now we've come to the part of the show where you get the spotlight and you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you and everything.
That's great. Thank you. So you can find me at lisacampion.com. Just stop by my website. I work with, like I said, emerging healers, psychics, and empaths to help them fully step into their gifts because I think the world needs all the healers they can get. Stop by my website. I teach Reiki classes, psychic development classes of all levels, have a fun YouTube channel, and I have my own podcast called The Miracle of Healing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest. This is dope. I really had a great time. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming through and sharing. And you're always welcome back. I would love
Thank you.
to have you back on if write more books and you want to come promote them.
I sure will. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and it was such a pleasure to meet you and be on your podcast. So thanks for having me here.
Pleasure's all mine. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off there. But thank you so much. I really did have a great time. This was really good. Thank you. All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. I want to thank Lisa for coming on and sharing her knowledge and experience with us today. If this episode opened your mind or gave you something to think about, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out everything we're building at Real Wise Global Media. Stay grounded, stay away, stay aware, and keep pushing forward. You know, your boy Wise does it. Peace out.